Thank you for being here today. I'm grateful to be joined by Senator Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, and grateful that you're all here. We're here today to celebrate, but it's a celebration tempered by what we're debating in the Senate, but it is a celebration of the 27th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. 27 years ago, President George H.W. Bush signed a bipartisan bill that acknowledged and affirmed that people who have a disability have rights, and that these rights included access to all services offered to the public, whether that's the right to go wherever they wanted to go, stores, theaters, government buildings, schools, universities, everywhere that a person without a disability could go. We said in that legislation that a person with a disability has the right to go to those same places as well. So those rights included the right to be full citizens, to petition a court if you're deaf, to apply for a job online if you're blind, to vote if you can't walk, to save for the future even if you have an intellectual disability, and of course to live where you want to live no matter what your disability. The changes the ADA brought to the country were substantial, and that's an understatement. Many businesses and offices are now fully accessible. Our sidewalks and buses and trains can be accessed by people with disabilities. Webcasts, TV shows, movies are now captioned. We have traffic lights and elevators that speak to us. We have higher education programs that are accessible to people with intellectual disabilities. More than 3 decades ago, many people with disabilities did not live at home or in their own apartment or in our communities. They lived in nursing homes, institutions, and other facilities. Our nation was diminished by that reality. As a people, we had low expectations for people with disabilities. They were away, they were separate from society, imprisoned by their own disability. The ADA said, we can do better than that as Americans. The ADA said that people with disabilities have so much to contribute to our society. So we have much to celebrate after 27 years. But as I said before, that celebration is tempered by the reality of what we're up against here today. The repeal of the Affordable Care Act and all that comes with that repeal undermines all of that progress of those 27 years. The cuts that they're talking about in this legislation would strip away the rights of people with disabilities. These cuts will deny people with disabilities the right to choose where they want to live. These cuts will make it impossible for them to have the choice to become a parent, for example. The cuts that Republicans are proposing will literally limit freedom and liberty for people with disabilities. So we have a long way to go to win this battle, and we have to stop not what they call repeal and replace. We have to stop repeal and decimate, because that's what they're trying to do. Decimating Medicaid to give the very rich a lot of tax cuts. That's the whole agenda here, and we have to stop them from doing that. We have a long way to go in the next hours and days. We're grateful for your help. So on this day of celebration, let it be a day of mobilization against what they're trying to do in the United States Senate. And I'm grateful to have partners in this fight every day of the week. I mentioned Senator Maggie Hassan, Senator Chris Van Hollen, who are here with us today. And I think the order is Senator Hassan will go first. Senator Maggie Hassan.
Well, thank you, Senator Casey. What a pleasure it is to be able to serve with such a champion as Senator Bob Casey, and also to be here with another great champion, Senator Chris Van Hollen. I am really grateful to all of the families, individuals, advocates who are here today. As we celebrate the 27th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, it's critical that we reaffirm our commitment to ensuring that individuals who experience disabilities receive the support they need at home, in school, or at work. As the mom of a son who experiences severe physical disabilities, this is an issue that is obviously very personal to me and my family. Just about 29 years ago, my husband Tom and I welcomed our first child into the world and learned soon thereafter that Ben would experience severe physical disabilities all his life. And today, Ben is a accomplished high school graduate who happens to experience very severe cerebral palsy. So while he doesn't speak or walk, can't really use his fingers to access a keyboard, his personality shines through in every single aspect of his communication and his life, and is a great gift to his friends and family and community. The ADA has made such a critical difference in the lives of countless Americans like our son Ben. So it's critical that we work to build on the progress we've made, not take actions that would hurt people who experience disabilities. I think often of the fact that had Ben been born a generation or two earlier, we would have been pressured to put Ben in an institution. But instead, because of the work of the champions and advocates and families who came before the Hassan family, Ben had this opportunity to be included, to go to school in his hometown and make friends and learn just the way we want for all of our children. And it reflects Ben's story. Our story reflects the progress we can make in this country, and we need to continue to make, so that all people who have lived on the margins for one reason or the other are welcomed and included, and we unleash their talent and energy, which helps us all thrive. That is why yesterday's developments with the first step towards passing Trump Care by Senate Republicans is so unbelievably disappointing, but also, as Senator Casey said, such a reason for mobilization and continued advocacy. The Senate Republicans step yesterday sent the message that they are willing to hurt the health and well-being of the American people in the name of partisan politics. The proposals we've seen from them would strip health care away from millions of people and deal a major blow to people who experience disabilities. For people with disabilities, some of these Trump Care proposals would not just take us back to the status quo before the ACA, they would actually manage to make things even worse. The massive cuts to Medicaid would force states to choose between slashing benefits, reducing the number of people who can get care, or both. States could cut services that people with disabilities need to stay active in their schools and communities. We can't afford to go back to the days where we marginalize or don't assist some of our most vulnerable people. I'll continue fighting to prevent Trump Care from ever becoming law, and I urge everyone here to continue to make your voices heard. And I hope that before we reach the end of this process, my Republican colleagues will turn back from this partisan approach and recognize the need to work together to build on and improve the Affordable Care Act. Ultimately, our country was founded on this very basic principle that every single person counts. My dad always reminded me that when we pledge allegiance, we pledge for liberty and justice for all. And he always cautioned me that there's a difference between charity and justice. While we welcome people's sympathy and empathy, it's not the same thing as having the same rights as all of our brothers and sisters in this great country do. So, we have to ensure that those who experience disabilities have equal justice and that they are fully included in their homes, in their schools, and their communities, so that we can continue to advance towards the vision that our founders had of a nation where truly every single person matters, counts, and has equal rights. Thank you all so much for being here. And now I'll kick it over to my wonderful colleague and another great champion for all Americans, the great Senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen.
Wow.
All right, Chris.
Thank you, Senator Hassan, for your passion and taking that personal experience in your life in making sure that we can make life better for everybody in our country. We're grateful to you and to Senator Casey. Thank you for being a champion. And to all of you, it is great to be here to celebrate the 27th anniversary of the passage of the ADA, which was a major leap forward in our country for inclusion, for dignity, for making sure that every American had a chance to achieve his or her full God-given potential. And it was a great step forward. We still need to move forward on the ADA. We can improve the ADA in many ways, but what we cannot do is turn back at this time. And this, as we celebrate, as my colleagues have said, is also a moment of great peril for making sure we continue to be an inclusive America where everybody has a chance. And that's because if you actually pass any one of these Senate Republican proposals, they will take away the ability of tens of millions of our fellow Americans, including so many of our fellow Americans with disabilities, to access affordable care and to make sure that they can exercise their rights in the United States of America. So we have to push back. We need to win this. Yesterday was both a step back, but also an indication of hope. On the one hand, Republicans started us down a very dangerous path that, if we don't stop them, could end up in destroying the Affordable Care Act. But you also saw a vote yesterday that showed great hesitation about going down that path. We need to make sure we do not allow that fuse to go travel all the way down and blow up our healthcare system and put so many of American lives at risk. And the reason I am hopeful is that the ADA passed 27 years ago because of a movement in America, part of the larger civil rights movement, the movements we saw over time for workers' rights and women's rights, for racial equity, and for making sure, as Senator Hassan said, that the rights of every American, regardless of disability or not, were observed and recognized, and we made sure that everybody could have those full rights. And we're at the same point now. And I believe the movement we've seen around this healthcare debate, including such a movement from the disabilities rights community, is going to be what at the end stops this unconscionable bill. So thank you for rallying 27 years ago, or those who went before us, to pass the ADA. Thank you for being here today to make sure we don't take a step backwards. Let's defeat this thing and move forward. And we have somebody here who's always moved forward, who's fought for our country, put her life at risk, and now is helping save healthcare. First of all, she was there sacrificing for others overseas. Now she's working hard every day to make sure people can keep their health care. Tammy Duckworth from Illinois.
Can you take off the mic?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. You come right over here.
All right, there we go.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You know, over a quarter century ago, a bunch of really fearless warriors climbed out of their wheelchairs and crawled up the steps of the United States Capitol to illustrate the lack of access that they had as Americans. They literally pulled themselves up, crawling up those steps. And yesterday, after we had that horrendous vote, I went back out to the steps of the Capitol to address the people who were there fighting for their lives, fighting not to lose their health care, fighting to be covered. And I couldn't get up the Capitol steps in my wheelchair, so I had to climb out of my wheelchair and climb up the steps and crawl up the steps, just like those Americans did so many years before. But this time, it was to talk about access to health care. And after we did that, I went and I checked in on the members of ADAPT who'd been arrested by the Capitol Police for protesting. And you guys have been there every day. I've seen you in front of offices fighting for your lives, fighting for the lives of so many Americans with pre-existing conditions who don't even know that you were there. And I got to see Marka Bristow from Chicago with Access Living, who was there that first day fighting for the ADA over a quarter of a century ago. And that's what we're doing now. We are fighting Every single one of us knows someone, loves someone with a pre-existing condition. And this horrible effort by the Republicans is going to take away that coverage. They're going to put people out on the streets, and many of those folks are going to die without health insurance. They're actually doing things like saying, well, we're going to make sure you can get covered for health insurance, but we can deny you your medication so that if you have cancer, you can't lose your coverage, but by the way, we can refuse you chemotherapy. If you have diabetes, we will make sure you're covered at some crazy high premium, but oh, by the way, we're not going to cover your insulin. That's not who we are as a nation, and we can be better than that. And this affects everyone. This affects people with disabilities. It affects those of us who may be young and invincible and have no health conditions. But if you live long enough, you will develop a condition. You will develop a need for health care. And to be in a country that would leave you behind just because you get sick, or even to deny you preventative care. One of the great stories that came out of the Affordable Care Act is how many people are getting preventative care now. I have talked to hospitals all across my home state of Illinois where they actually have people who are going in for care that stops them from getting ill. And it is saving taxpayers millions and millions of dollars because people are getting preventative care. You know, they want to cut a program that 1 in 10 veteran relies on. They want to put 2 out of 3 people who are in nursing homes who get coverage out on the streets. We're better than that as a nation, and we'll fight every single day, and I will fight every single day, because bottom line, I was that invincible person. I was in the military. I was fit. I was able to do everything. I was among the elite in terms of my health. And one split second later, I had no legs and I was fighting for my life in a hospital. But because the American people kept their promise to me and provided me with my health care through the Department of Veterans Affairs, I actually made it and I survived. And because the ADA was there, because those people crawled up those Capitol steps over 27 years ago, I was able to run and again serve and become a public servant and serve now, because there's no way I would be a United States Senator today. There's no way that I would have a life and a job outside of the home had the ADA not passed. And so it is my promise, my pledge to you, just as you are out there every day fighting for your lives and the lives of anyone with a disability or a pre-existing condition, I will fight every single day, because as long as I can crawl into my wheelchair, I will stand for this fight. We're in this together. We are a better nation than that. We are a better nation than to leave anybody behind. We are a better nation than to turn our backs on our fellow Americans. Healthcare is a right. It is not a privilege. No one is better than anyone else. Just because you may be healthy today, tomorrow you may not be. I hope that you stay healthy, but let's make sure that we take care of those of us who maybe fall ill and who may need a little extra help. Thank you for being here. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Let's hear it for her again. Thanks so much. I'm going to introduce someone from Philadelphia. You don't mind if I take someone from my home state. But Sean, come on up here. Sean gave one of the best speeches of this season of debate on the health care bill. He gave it in City Hall in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not just saying he gave a good speech because he's here. Anyone who knows me knows that when I was coming out of there, I was impressed by what he said. It was one of the best speeches I heard anywhere, including any of the speeches in Washington. We're grateful that Sean is here. He's an advocate. He's a student. He's an actor. He was the star of A Fierce Kind of Love, which premiered in Philadelphia and depicted what it's like to live with a disability. Sean's going to share some of his thoughts about what the ADA means to him and why Medicaid is important to him as well. So Sean Eleon. Sean? Let me hold that for you.
Thank you.
The mic? Oh, put it right in there, yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
To all. First, let me just thank Senator Bob Casey and his staff for inviting me. Like to speak on this magnificent day, which is the 27th anniversary of the American with Disability Act. Let me also thank Senator Ben Hollen, Senator Hassan, and Senator Duckworth. Many years ago, people like myself, like others, was not allowed to be in the community, to be in this society, but yet we was isolated and segregated. We was put out of life because we have a disability. But some things change over the years. We have heroes like Johnson Thought, Ed Roberts, Judy Human, Senator Hawkins, Senator Ronald Kennedy Johnson, and for my state, Hollen Johnson, who was an advocate because of their hard work. We are here today. So let's give thanks for them. I was born two years before the ADA was passed.
You're a young man.
Well, when I was little, my mom told me that I can do anything. Thanks, Mom. You was right. Thanks, Mom. Because of the ADA, I was able to live my dreams. My mom's dreams came true, and I was also able to live out the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, that all people, no matter what their condition is, should be treated as equals, treated as a person, treated as great members of society. I graduated from high school as the valedictorian
All right.
of my class. And then that's when I start my independence. I go to one of the great education institutions in America. Because of the ADA and the supports from my school, I am a 4.0 student at Temple University, right in the heart of North Philly. The ADA has allowed me to have the accommodations that I need to be a success story. Because I have beat the odds of having a disability, and I have grown into the young African young man that I want to be. But I want the same opportunity that I have for this generation and future generations. I am an advocate for all. And I saw everyone here is an advocate. Thank you for your work. But our work is not done. Medicaid is a part of our democracy. Medicaid had enabled me to get the supports that I needed. Not only that, everyone can get those supports that they need because of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. I am calling on the GOP to keep the ACA. I am telling you that you said liberty is freedom. Well, if you take away the ACA and Medicaid, there will not be no freedom in United States of America. If you appeal Medicaid, you going to take away the God-given rights that people with disabilities deserve. If you take away Medicaid and the ACA, you will cut justice for all. You will cut independence for all. you will cut liberty for all. We had came way too far to go back. So we still have a long way to go, because people with disabilities are still on the waiting list. People with disabilities are still being discriminated with. Yes, we are a good nation, but we have a long way to go before we become a great nation for all. Thank you.
Hey, Sean. Let's hear it for Sean. So what did I tell you? What did I tell you? Hey, I want to make sure, check on the vote. Did the vote start or not? Good, good. Well, hey, Sean, thanks so much. Hey, Sean said it all. He even gave us a new one-liner, right? This is important because we're in the last hours of a long debate, potentially. He reminded the GOP about the ACA. That was pretty good. Sean, thanks for doing that. He also reminded us about what's behind us. Equal justice under law. And if you have a disability, you will not have equal justice under law if they get their way in that building behind us. So we're spending a few minutes today to celebrate the 27th anniversary of the ADA, but we're only going to do that for a few minutes because we're going to continue to move and mobilize and advocate against what they're trying to do on this repeal and decimate Medicaid agenda, and we're going to win this battle. Thank you very much.